Okay, so as we continue in this section about viruses, we had just left off with talking about viral, as you can see, structure and replication. And one of the things that we had tried to discuss yesterday was CWD is a common name for a virus that is present in the deer population. And I believe that's the scientific name. A common name was zombie deer or something to that effect. And it's very similar to mad cow disease. It's a prion that makes its way through the population and can be, maybe it's even airborne. I don't know if there's any documentation or studies that would support that. But we certainly know some of you had raised your hands in knowing and heard about what this viral disease can do, and has an effect on the deer to where if it looks like it's malnourished, it's probably one that if it was to be shot, you'd want to probably contact game fish and parks. But this is where we had left off with last time. Now, one of the things that we had mentioned was the idea of proviruses being those that we would consider as maybe those flu virus or cold virus, those that are just going to have to run their cycle because they go through what we call the lytic cycle. And that doesn't mean that a virus can't go through the lysogenic cycle. It just means that it may do that. The reason we see that is when we start talking about, as you can see, viral diseases. Okay, so what we see here is common proviruses that enter the lysogenic cycle. So what that means is one of those types that when it enters the lysogenic cycle, it could be one that is just integrated into your DNA. It may make a reoccurrence in certain cases, and you may not even know that you have that. And as we see, herpes simplex, which is one that causes cold sores, that would be found around people's mouths, for instance, is a common place where these cold sores make their presence known. And another aspect is what we call a herpes simplex 2 or genital herpes. And that's going to be one of those, it is a sexually transmitted disease. And with that, as you can see, it causes genital herpes. And probably one that is very detrimental and dangerous, any type of hepatitis, okay, is going to have an effect on the liver. That's what hepatic actually means. So hepatitis then is an inflammation in the liver, where you can see there's different types of classifications, whether it's hepatitis A or hepatitis B. And what we see happen is it can cause long-term liver damage. Okay? And as we had briefly mentioned chickenpox yesterday in that presentation. And that is an example of one that can be a provirus that would go through the lytic cycle, okay, and one that would run its course. Many of you had raised your hands saying that, yes, we have had the chickenpox, okay? But what we see happening is this is a virus that can turn into the lysogenic cycle, which can later, in turn, cause shingles. When we say later, it's later on in an individual's life. And it's probably, what I want to say, more damaging to have shingles later on in life, and certainly going to be more painful. So for those of you who have had chickenpox or have been exposed to it, you're hopefully going to have a lifelong immunity to it. And that's why I believe one of your vocab terms then would also be immunizations. People choose to get the flu shot because what that does is that helps build your immune system. Okay, so retroviruses is another term that we had used, and what that means is in this human immunodeficiency virus, people may have that and not know it because it's one that can remain inside the body for long periods of time. Okay? All right. As we continue, again, retroviruses, it makes DNA from its RNA. So that's what we mean. It gets integrated into your own DNA. Because this reverse transcriptase, remember, that was a term from way long ago. Right here, this reverse transcriptase uses RNA as a template to make DNA. And that's what we mean. It gets integrated into your DNA. It can have long-term effects. And that's why retroviruses can be so damaging in this sense. Okay? Because as you can see, this RNA virus, okay. This reverse transcriptase, again, gets integrated into your DNA. Okay. So as we see here, this human immunodeficiency virus, okay, that leads on to autoimmune deficiency, or AIDS, okay, has an effect on the white blood cells. It compromises them, okay? So as you can see, once inside a human host, the HIV virus will enter the white blood cells and it compromises them. And what we mean by compromise is it has a negative effect on them, okay? So as you can see, new viruses are released into the bloodstream by exocytosis, which means the cell ruptures, okay, and then it goes to have an effect on other cells. Okay. Let's see here. I think, yeah, we're almost done. I think that's a good place to stop. We will pick up with this again tomorrow. Don't forget, vocab is due tomorrow over chapter 24. We also have a vocab quiz over that information. Next week, we'll get this wrapped up with the bacteria and the viruses, and then we'll have an evaluation over the two chapters together, and then move on to doing what's called the gram stain, and that's analyzing different types of bacteria, but that is later on next week, so we'll catch up with you next time.